Howdy folks, welcome back. This is Tom, Moto-Resto LLC, of course, and we're going to do a number 2 update video here of what's going on because got a new shop tool I think you'll enjoy, and what's the status of the VFR project and some other stuff going on. So, of course, it's a disaster in here because I've got everything torn up. I'm doing some, well, not everything, but I'm doing some rearranging and realigning. I have a rather small footprint because we got this guy. Got ourselves a milling machine finally. Well, it's a mill drill. And for those guys watching out there that have Bridgeports and other things like that, they'll be like, that ain't no milling machine. Well, it really is because it'll do what I want it to do. But let me tell you about it here. This is a Jet 16. Yes, it's an import, but it is a 1977 dated model, at least on the motor. The motor has a plate on the back showing 1977. The motor appears to be original. It's a 2-horse motor. It's wired for 110, but the plate says 115/230, which back then was the proper voltages. So we're going to go ahead and probably end up doing 240, but that's another story. I don't really have 240 close by. Well, I really do. It's on the other side of that wall, though. You see that plug? It's on the other side of that wall on the outside. I got a sub panel. The sub panel has to be upgraded for more slots, and then I can punch it over through here. And plus I need a couple more breaker slots because I need to run power out to the shed as well. But that's for the future. It does turn, it does run. I'm not going to run it right now, but I will show you what's up underneath here. I just undid it yesterday. I haven't even lifted it off yet, but I don't know. I got a lot going on around here. So let me put you in a stand. We'll pull this thing off and then we'll take a quick look at it. It's been a whirlwind, folks. A lot of stuff going on. Oh, boy. Come on, you. 4 of these, what do you call them, like toolbox clamp gizmos on here. So, yeah, it's it's kind of crusty. That belt's shot. I hope there's numbers on them. I'll have to look at that with the flashlight later. I'm sure I bet you these are original belts, but anyway, we'll have to take a look at that. Dirty, needs to be cleaned, needs to be vacuumed. Obviously, this is a little surface rust, but not much. I mean, mostly this is like gunk. A little bit of surface rust, I think, from about here up, because this thing was up higher when I first saw it. The guy, I tell you the background of this thing. I got it out of the guy's shop in Hudson, Florida. Ichabod and I jumped in the truck on Sunday. That's about an hour and a half one way from me, and we went up to Hudson, and this guy sold this to me with some tooling for $600. I could not walk away from this. I mean, this is absolutely worth that. 7 days and twice on Sunday. So, at least we got something we can start working with. And like I said, yeah, we got some rust, a little crust, but it's definitely doable, as far as repairing or restoring. The ways, the dovetail ways are not rusty. They're just sticky and they're not pitted. I mean, everything moves. It's sluggish. Obviously, no power feed on the X and Y or the Z, the quill, but that's fine. I'm not going to completely disassemble this thing. I don't have the facilities to do it. I should have shot video getting this thing in here, but it was just too critical for me to concentrate on what I was doing because it's just me. And we had to load this in my truck, I should say, the gentleman that I bought it from, with an engine hoist, which you'd expect. And it was a big engine hoist, and that sumbitch was struggling. So I borrowed an engine hoist from my neighbor down the road from me that does Harleys and stuff. He's got a pretty big operation behind his house. He does antique vintage Harleys. I mean, this guy does some phenomenal work, and he's a friend of mine as well, of course. And so I went down there and borrowed his engine hoist and backed it into the garage as far as I could, lifted it off, pulled the truck out, dropped it down, and then eventually set it here. Now, unfortunately, I really wanted to paint this base because it looks like hell, I know that, but I could not do it because I had no place to set this in the interim while I did that, and I couldn't keep his lift because I don't have room for it in here, and I wasn't about to leave it outside in the weather. He's got it in a covered area, so I really didn't have a way to do it. So what I'm planning on doing eventually is I'll clean this up best I can and simply, you know, paint around it or do something like that. Maybe get some of that CRC rust converter and just paint some of that rust converter on it to kind of lock everything in. And, you know, just be careful of I don't want it to seep necessarily underneath the machine. Of course, probably wouldn't do anything, but I don't know yet. I'm, you know, it's probably not going to get any worse because it's, you know, it's not like it's flooded or super humid in here. In the summertime it is, but, you know, no worse than where it was in his place. And so, yeah, I'm looking forward to this. It's going to be a while before we can get to use it. All right, we're going to update this present time. I shot the original parts of this video a number of days ago, and I just have not had any time to edit it down. So I started editing it yesterday, and same day that this came in, which is a manual that I ordered for this. It's a reproduction for this particular, you know, drill mill. And what I was going to do is I was going to put in the video, and I hope I got it all out. If I didn't, I apologize. But I was going to say that I was going to take the table off this part and this part and clean it and do all that other stuff. But mainly because I didn't see any table locks. In other words, to lock the X or the Y. And I thought, you know, I looked at these and said, well, these can't be table locks because they're on the gib side. And I'm thinking these are gib adjusters. But it turns out that according to this manual, these are the table locks for this way, for the X, and then there's one on that side for the Y. So they use kind of an interesting gib adjuster. It's this screw right here. Apparently it must go in, and I don't know how that works. It must have some sort of a, well, actually what it does is I know what it does. I know exactly, I see it now. I bet you this gib is tapered. You know, it's got a slight taper to it. And so this thing actually drags this in and out. And I'll show you what I mean by that. I've never seen one like this before, but if you turn the screw, you see that it actually moves it in and moves it out, the actual gib. So, you know, that's pretty interesting. So that's how you adjust that. And these guys are the table locks rather. And again, there's one, I think, yeah, there it is, right there. Can you see that? Yeah. So, okay, so I decided not to take any of the table apart because it moved freely. I just needed to clean the exposed areas and really grease, you know, lubricate it up really well. And so that's where I'm at right now. I'm still cleaning, but I got the table done pretty well. The column is all done. The spindle is always good. I didn't have any problem with the spindle in here. But this part was all rusted, so I cleaned that. I got to clean up inside where the collets go. It's just, it feels a little rough, like it's got a little surface rust, so we'll take care of that later. And it was missing a pin on this manual feed for the quill, you know, for the actual quill arm. And what was in there was a piece of welding rod. The guy that I bought it from goes, yeah, I got it this way. This is the guy did it that I bought it from. Yeah, it's coming along. And we're going to get the rest of it done here. I ordered the belts. I found some different numbers. I hope they're right. They're Gates belts that are coming for this thing. I got a shipping notice on it. They're already on the way. And everything works smoothly now. I'll eventually, I started to do it last night. I put an indicator and started indicating across the table, and it was dead nuts, 0. I want to do the spindle and see if there's any run out, you know, this way or that way. When the spindle turns around, you know, radially, not radial run out, but when you spin this around to see if there's any difference in that regards, you know, for the squareness of the actual center of the spindle to the table. But so far, really good. And everything definitely works good. I don't think there was a lot of hours on this thing because the bearings up in the top side here are really smooth. And they're really good. There's like no playing them whatsoever. There's no noise in them. And so, you know, I'm liking it. So I just wanted to kind of update and stick this in toward the end of the video here, at least this section, to, you know, to kind of update you because I was wrong on that. It definitely has locks, but I just didn't understand what those are for till I got that manual. So as they say, when all else fails, read the instructions. I guess they're right. I think the first job I'm going to do with this is for the Z1-R. I'll show you what's going on with that. The Z1-R, you see the videos on that. opened up the clearance for the relief for that part there that sticks out. You see that part where the blue tape is, where the rear brake lever mounts. And I talked to my welder. I did a FaceTime with him, and he said he could definitely box that in. So it'll essentially be boxed in like this, you know, the piece of angle, and then finish off the ends of that. And what I'd like to do, I'm going to have to bring it up to him twice, unfortunately, because I need to have him do this first, make sure it clears. Then I need to press that needle bearing back in, and then I need to put it back in place, make sure we have the clearance, and then I need to come back here with the measurements and put the shocks back in. I'm going to use these as a reference because even if he upgrades, they should be a compatible upgrade to the Z1-R. And then I'm gonna machine some aluminum blocks that, like I said, from some rectangular bar stock that I have. Then bring it back to the welder and have them weld them wherever they need to be back here, and then I can get this into a rolling chassis. So I think that's the first job we're gonna do, because I need to kind of make them into a certain shape that I'm not even sure yet. We'll do a video on that at that time. Okay, so the background again. According to the guy I bought this from, he said he got it from an old sprint car and NASCAR racer named Frankie Schneider. And this, I never heard of the guy, so I looked him up just a little while ago, and apparently this guy is very well known. In fact, somebody wrote a book about him. He was a driving master. According to the stuff I just read really quick on Wikipedia and so forth, I mean, this guy could drive anything that had a steering wheel and wheels on it that rolled. So the guy I bought it from said he got it from him about 25 years ago. So if this was in 1977, so that's what, 45 years? And so if the guy bought it new, maybe he did, I don't know, around 77 or 78 or whatever, so he would have had it, he would have had it like 20 years or so, and then the guy I bought it from had it 25, so there's 45 right there. I don't know if he ever used the thing on like NASCAR, where I don't even know if the guy used it at all. Maybe he bought it and never used it. Maybe he just had it. Maybe somebody gave it to him. I don't know. But according to the guy I bought it from, that's who he got it from, Frankie Schneider, the racer. So that's kind of cool. And now this guy that I bought it from said this was the very vise that was on it when he got it. So this is like something that's been on it forever. I'm not going to throw this away, but I am taking it off and putting on a nicer vise, kind of like a Kurt knockoff type. I can't afford a Kurt. A 6-inch or even a 4-inch Kurt is more valuable than what I paid for this thing, as far as the dollars go. So I got a knockoff come. It's a 6-inch. We'll put it on here. It should work pretty well when I need to fixture something in a vise. And then I got to pick up a set of those, mill straps and tie downs to fixture stuff directly to the table using the T-slots. I don't have that, but I can get those Harbor Freight or National Tool things, places like that. So yeah, pretty neat. All right, so that's about it on the mill. I can't think of anything. Oh, did I mention? Yeah, I did mention I can wire it for 240. Never mind, 220, 221, whatever works. So yeah, you'll see this in the future, assuming it doesn't completely catch fire or something. According to the guy I bought it from, this Frankie Schneider actually made that base that this thing is sitting on. That's what he told me, at least. So, hey, if it's true, it's true. If it's not, then it's a good story. All right, so what else we got going on? This is the third of 3 ATVs I'm doing for this one customer. The TRX 250s were 2 of them that I did before. You saw a video on one of them where I was diagnosing a ignition problem. And this is the TRX 400. This is an 05, and it's a mess. I went to take the carburetor off, and I was thinking to myself when I was been doing everything here that maybe I should have ordered a carb holder because it's probably petrified. No, it'll be fine. So I go to wrench the carburetor off or lever it off, and the carb holder snapped right in half. It was indeed petrified. So got another one coming. I got a shipping notice on that and a couple other things that I need as well for this and some other stuff. So it should be here either today or tomorrow. We'll get it back together. I have everything else I need. The carb's mostly clean. I got to put it back together and with new parts, and we'll get her going. So that's that. And so, basic ATV job, no big deal. I already covered the Z1-R stuff. So let's go to the VFR. All right, so the VFR is where it was at last time you saw it, but I have gotten some stuff in stock, including the transmission parts. I'll show you those here in a minute. The next videos that you'll see on this are going to be when I start the engine removal. I'm not going to film every step of that. It's not going to be a how-to. What I'm going to do is I'm going to say, all right, I'm going to take everything off that the service manual says in order to get the engine out. Then I'll do that. We'll come back and I'll say, okay, this is my plan for taking the engine out. I may film a little bit of that as I go because, you know, as I said in the initial video, this one drops down. I don't know if I'll do it on the floor here or up here. Like I said, I don't know yet. I don't know. All right, let's go over here. Show you what I got. Found this on eBay. It's a complete VFR 750 transmission for this year, according to, you know, the RC24 transmission. It came out of an 86 according to the eBay sale info. Everything you see here is what came. All right, so shifter forks look really nice. I looked in the service manual. I couldn't find, you know, I didn't look very well, I guess. I couldn't find the references for these thicknesses, but I'll have to look and see if I can find that. Mic those up, make sure they're within. I did see some for the transmission shafts, but I'm not going to be disassembling these shafts, maybe. Okay, so what do we have here? You have a primary shaft, or a main shaft, I should say. Then you have a counter shaft. So the main shaft is the clutch. This is where the clutch goes. This is the spline for the clutch. And this is the counter shaft, which is the business end where the sprocket goes. That is the one that I'm most concerned about because it's got some corrosion and a little rust on that spacer. That is where the seal rides. Whoops. Dropped you off of there. That is where the seal rides. So I'm a little concerned about it. Let's move stuff around here. I'm a little concerned about that because it doesn't feel, you know, I can feel it, but it's not like really bad. And this has got to be pressed on. Now I looked in the parts fish. This shaft with this spacer and this bearing is an assembly. In other words, they do not break this out. They do not break this out. It's an assembly. Now, of course, it's unavailable. So I'm thinking that this comes from Honda like this. It can't be made into it because they would have never been able to cut these splines. You know, they cut these splines with a special cutter that's going around like this, like on a horizontal mill, and that obviously is going to come up and taper in kind of like that, right? So they must have pressed this in afterwards, and so I'm like, this has got to be something that's made into this shaft. So I'm probably just going to leave this. I'm going to take a look at the one that comes out. Worst case scenario is if I really need to change this out, I'll strip this shaft, strip the one that comes out of the bike, and then put these components on that shaft. But you need new circlips, or, you know, spring clips. I guess they're circlips. You don't want to ever reuse circlips on transmissions when you take them apart on motorcycles. You got to use new clips. And they're available, maybe. It's one of these things on the parts fish that's like, well, it ships in like 3 to 4 or 5 to 6 days. And when I see that, it usually means we probably can't get it. So I don't know what's going to happen because this bearing is fine. There is no radial movement. There's no axial movement, and it's smooth. There's a little bit of surface corrosion in different spots, but hell, I've seen that before. And like when I took the Bandit apart and put that transmission, there's a little bit in there from like water getting between the case and this, or a little moisture or something. It is not a problem. So this bearing is fine. So what I'm thinking of doing is just using this. I'll polish this up real good. You know, cover this up with some plastic or something and wire wheel the crap out of that, and then just polish this up with some progressively finer wet or dry and with some silicone or something and get it nice and clean, and we'll just probably use it. The shifter drum is in immaculate condition. I mean, it really is nice. It just doesn't look worn at all. It's amazing. I'm like, this thing looks brand freaking new. Like I said, the forks do too. This is obviously the shifter shaft, and then the miscellaneous parts for it. So this is the seal that came off of it, off of the shaft, I mean. And I was kind of wondering why they were shaped that way. So it must go on the inside of the output shaft, or the primary shaft cover where the shifter shaft goes. which is fine. I got another one of those coming, a new one. So this right here is actually another set of shifter forks that I picked up off another eBay sale because I wasn't sure how these were going to look, and I want to make sure that I'm not forking around on that. Well, I guess that's about it. That updates you. You know, I don't have a very big operation, so I don't have very big updates. I can't tell you how much even a small machinist, not terribly small, but like a mill drill like this is going to open up as far as capabilities go. I can't even begin to dent that surface because there's so many times I've come across, well, if I had a mill, I could really handle that, like milling slots or you know, doing something more precise that I can do certainly with a hand grinder or the Grizzly drill press. It's one of these things where it's really going to expand my ability to do custom work in particular in fabrication and problem solving, building things, and you know, taking care of business when it comes to massaging things back into shape. Because you know when you got a lathe, you got 80% of it dicked, but that 20% is got to come from like a milling machine or something like this. So yeah, looking forward to doing this and using this. It's going to be a real great addition to my little footprint here, my little workshop. All right, guys, it's time for what, I don't know, but I gotta go. It's cold to us, at least. Last 2 days been 35 and 34 degrees, respectively, going backwards. That is, day and day before yesterday. And I'm like, this is cold. 41 this morning, too cold for us. It warms up nice in the afternoon, but you know, I'm out here with a heater on in the morning because it's so freaking cold. And I'm gonna sign off. Say, I hope you have a great day. Hope you have a great week. Thanks for watching. Don't forget to subscribe, like the video. It doesn't cost you a cent. Ring the bell and you get notified when I put more stuff up, especially on this VFR project. All right, so thanks again. Don't just repair, restore. Catch you on the next video.